Lately I've been feeling like it's way too much for me. Saving everybody but no one saving me. I need a little help sometimes, and everybody thinks I'm just fine. I'm the strong one, and everybody thinks I'm fine.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Awkward Moms. I am back. Took a little break. I just feel like sometimes we as moms and dads need a moment to just refresh, regroup, redo, be selfish a little bit, spend a little time with yourself and kind of get yourselves together, because how can we be parents to our kids if we're not first taking care of ourselves? So sometimes I have to take those mental breaks. I have to check out for a minute. I have to tell myself, yes, Brittany, you have to take care of this and you have to take care of that, but that can wait and this can wait, because you need to take care of yourself first. So I did take a little mental break, but I am back. And I decided to come back with that topic that I have been avoiding. Um, Not because I don't want to do it, but because a lot goes into IEPs. I've had a lot of people ask me, when are you going to talk about IEPs? When are you going to dive into? And yeah, I avoided it just a bit because, like I said, it's a lot of information. A lot goes into IEPs, and it's just a lot. So I was like, oh my God, I can't keep avoiding it. I gotta do it. So this episode may be a smidgen longer than the rest of them because it's a lot of information. But what I'm also realizing that is that a lot of kids have IEPs. So a lot of parents sit in IEP meetings and really have no idea what they're talking about. I was one of those parents. So as my kids got older, I learned more and I gathered more information. That mixed with I don't mind researching. So I just want to help somebody in whatever way I can. Because I understand that IEP meetings are very overwhelming. They're very sometimes you walk away more overstimulated than your kid. And I mean, sometimes it's just a lot, and they're using words that you don't understand. A lot of the stuff that you're seeing, even on the paperwork, because I do have a copy of this is Gavin's IEP. A lot of times the paperwork is a lot, and you're reading it, and you're not even sure on what you're reading. You're signing off on stuff, and you're not sure what you're signing off on. It's a lot. So I stopped avoiding it, and I'm here to talk about IEPs. So let's dive into it. What is a IEP? An IEP is a individualized education program. It is a legally binding plan that outlines the special education services and supports a child with a disability needs to succeed in school. So I first wanted to say your child does not have to have a disability to have an IEP. I think that's a narrative that's been put out there that a lot of people think that when you say IEP, well, what's wrong with my child? Nothing is wrong with your child. Your child just needs something different. They need a plan. Some kids can't just go and sit in a classroom and learn just based off of how the state of Georgia says you're supposed to learn. Some kids cannot do that, and they need a plan put in place so they can learn at their pace in the way that they learn. So just because you have a child with an IEP, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have a disability. It doesn't necessarily mean that anything is wrong with them at all. So that's the narrative that I really wish would be killed, because that's not true. That's not what an IEP is. I say all the time, my kids would not be as far as they are without them both being on IEPs at all. I'm not sure where they would be without an IEP being put in place, especially Gavin. because at the ending of the day, he does have a disability. And if I didn't have an IEP in place, or if I was a parent that said, no, I'm not doing that, then he wouldn't be a part of the National Honor Society. He wouldn't be having I think his GPA last I checked was 3.6. Like, he wouldn't be there had I not stepped up and said, okay, we have this disability or we have this problem. What can we do? So that prepared me for his brother coming behind him, who also needed an IEP. Now, he doesn't have a disability, but he struggles with his reading. So because he struggles with his reading, we put an IEP in place to help with that. So that's just kind of giving a general idea of what an IEP is and what kids can have an IEP. Parents are equal and vital members of the IEP team. You have the right to request evaluations, give consent, participate in meetings, and disagree with decisions. I am a disagree with decisions parent. I speak up. I may not speak up a lot in a lot of areas because I'm an introvert. So I may not speak up in a lot of areas, but when it comes down to my kids, I speak up. If I feel like I don't like something, I want something modified, I want something removed, I feel like they don't need that anymore, get it out of there. Don't try to convince me that my child needs this when they don't. So I am a parent that speaks up. So I must say, if your child is already on an IEP, never feel like the teacher knows more than you about your child. Because yeah, when it comes down to that book knowledge, yes, they know it. They got you with that. But you don't know my child better than me. So I have the right to challenge something if I don't like it. And you can convince me all day, try and convince me all day. But if I don't like it and I don't like it for my child, I have the right to speak up and say, I don't like that for my child. Let's either modify that or remove it. Hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And we can go back and we can always fix that. But ultimately, you as a parent have the right to speak up and say, I don't like this for my child. So we need to remove that or we need to modify that. So that's very, very important. Knowing that you're a part of the IEP team. It's not just the speech therapists, just the teachers, just the special education team. It's not just them. You're a part of the team too. So anything that happens with their IEP, you're a part of it. What an IEP includes is the current academic level of that child, the annual goals for that child, services, accommodations, how the child will participate in general curriculum, and assessments. So, current academic level. Of course, we all know every child is on a different level. Every child is not on the same level. Some kids are further than other kids. And although they may be in the same grade, in the same class, that does not mean that they are on the same level. So an IEP places your child at their level, whatever their level is. So I can still learn what Timmy is learning, but I have to learn it at a different pace. So having that IEP in place is pretty much stating a written document stating I can learn the same thing Timmy is learning. I'm just not learning it like Timmy. So that's the academic level. Your annual goals. So you sit down with the teacher and you talk about what do you want to see your child accomplish this year. Like, for example, for me, I felt like at a certain point, Gavin did not need speech therapy anymore. So one of my goals for him was to kill speech therapy. I just didn't feel like it was necessary anymore. I feel like he had gotten everything that he needed from speech therapy. Well, we were able to get that accomplished. Gavin was not happy about it. that was something else I was going to say. Talk to your kids. Talk to them and get their thoughts on stuff too before you just make decisions. There's nothing wrong with asking them because, hey, they have to live their life every day. You're not at school with them. So you don't know what they feel and how they feel. So talk to your kids and see how they feel about certain decisions that you make. But ultimately, I had to override Gavin with that because I felt like Gavin just loved his teacher. It wasn't about him going to speech. It wasn't about him feeling like, well, I need speech. No, he just loved his teacher. He just loved being up under his teacher. So he was upset when speech therapy was taken away. We went from an hour, we tried it slowly because when we realized he was going to be upset, we was like, okay, we'll go from an hour to 30 minutes. Well, the speech therapist felt like, okay, we don't even need the 30 minutes anymore. And so he's looking crazy. So she was like, I'll try to get you for 15 minutes. Like, just to appease you. But eventually it's like he doesn't need it. And he's taking up a spot that another kid can have. So I was just using it as an example as far as setting goals for your child when you start to see them starting to conquer some things. Set a goal in place. Okay, by the end of next year, we're gonna kill this. So let's see how he does this year, or let's see how she does this year. So by the end of the year, we can see if we can go ahead and kill this right here because I don't feel like the accommodation is needed anymore. So that's what annual goals boils down to. Services, for example, can be your speech therapy, your occupational therapy, regular therapy with a counselor. That's services that you can have. That's just some examples. There are other services, but those are services that you can have. Accommodations. I think I talked about this with RTI. So accommodations is your child may need to sit closer to the teacher because they may have a behavioral issue. So they may need to sit closer to the teacher so the teacher can be within arm's reach of them. Because if you sit them in the back of the classroom where they probably want to sit, I'm constantly allowing you to distract my classroom. But if I sit you within arm's reach of me, I can catch you before you even get started. Accommodations can be something as simple as if you have a child who, let's use Down syndrome, for example. If you have a child who's Down syndrome, a lot of them wear glasses. So me being a glasses wearer, I don't wear these for fun. I wear these because I cannot see. So they may need to be closer to the board because of the fact that they wear glasses and seeing is difficult for them. So an accommodation that they need is being closer to the board so they can see. So there can be a lot of accommodations that works for that child. Some children may need incentives. They don't challenge themselves. So if I put an incentive in place, if you do good this time, then I'll give you more recess time. That's an accommodation. So that's what accommodations can be. How a child would participate in general curriculum. So that's pretty much putting a child in the classroom with everyone else, watching them, seeing how they participate, and seeing what you need to do to make them comfortable, pretty much. What you need to do to make sure that they're learning. What you need to do to make sure that in a general classroom they still can succeed without an issue. And assessments. It's a lot of assessments. It's a lot of assessments. It's a lot of assessments. I've heard assessments so much. It's a lot of assessments. And I mean, we all know what assessments are. It's pretty much just monitoring for the most part. It's a lot. So assessment can simply be your child taking a test just to see where they are. That's an assessment. So it's a lot of assessments, I must say. I've heard that word so much. It's a lot of them. Key factors with an IEP. A written plan. An IEP is a detailed written document that serves as a roadmap for a child's special education services. So it's pretty much like, I know we have GPSs now, but back in the day when you pulled out that map and it's telling you which direction to go, that's what IEP is for a child that needs it. It's pretty much, we have set a foundation for this child. We have set what this child needs, your accommodations, everything that the child needs so they can succeed in a general ed classroom. And we follow this roadmap. Because if we don't follow this roadmap, we will be lost. So we don't want to be lost. So we follow this roadmap. So that is pretty much the basis. That's basic of what an IEP is. It's a roadmap for your child and what works for them. Because again, an IEP is in place for your child. It's not something. Gavin's IEP and Gabriel's IEP do not look alike. Because it's for your child. It's what fits for your child and your child only. That's it. There's not a general IEP, or it's whatever fits for your kid. Now, some of the accommodations may be the same. Of course, they probably take the same assessments, that kind of thing. But overall, it's what fits for your child. So it is also under the IDEA. It's mandated by the IDEA and is provided free of charge to eligible children in public school. So, as I stated earlier, it is law mandated. An IEP has to follow a certain protocol and a certain I'm looking for the word. It has to follow a certain protocol like this. So, because it is mandated, you can't venture off too much off of what you have to follow. Pretty much, it's a rubric, I guess you could say. It's a. I cannot find the word. It's a syllabus. That's a good one. Syllabus that you follow. Like, for example, when you go to college, hey, high school, some middle schools, you have the teacher may give you a syllabus, and that's what we're going to follow for the year. That's what an IEP is. It's a syllabus, but it's just for your child. It's not for the classroom. But it's also mandated by the IDEA to follow the protocols that they have set in place for public schools, that is. Now, the school that I worked at was private. They also had IEPs. They did not call it IEPs. I can't remember what they called it, but they did not call it IEPs because they were a private school. They didn't have to follow this. But when you have a public school, you have a certain protocol that you have to follow. I touched on this a little bit earlier. It's tailored to your child. The plan is based on the child's unique needs and helps them make progress in general education curriculum. An IEP is simply for your child. That's it. It's not for anybody else. It's not, your child's IEP is not going to work for their brother's IEP. Your child's IEP is not going to work for their sister's IEP. Like, it's what your child needs. What accommodations your child needs. Strictly for your child only. It's tailored to fit your child. It's like buying a suit and it's too big, and you take it to a tailor and they tailor it to fit you. But then your cousin asks, hey, can I borrow that suit? And his pants are too short, or the arms are too long, because it was tailored to fit you. So that's not going to work for them. That's how an IEP is set up. It's tailored to fit Gavin. So it's not going to work for Gabriel because it's tailored for Gavin. So that's how an IEP is set up. It's also a contract. An IEP is basically a contract between the school and the families. So everybody has to sign the IEP. There's a signature page in this packet. Everybody has to sign. You sign each and every time that you go to a meeting. You sign, your partner or whomever else is there with you signs, the teacher sign, the counselor sign, Everybody involved in your child's IEP has to sign because it is a contract. It's a contract that has to be followed. So it's pretty much this is what we said we're going to do for my child, and this is what we follow, and I need your signature on the dotted line to make sure that you follow what we said we were going to follow. So it is, in fact, a contract. What is in an IEP? Current levels of performance. A statement that describes the child's current academic achievements and how it affects their ability to participate in general curriculum. So that's basically Gavin has always had an IEP. So IEP in kindergarten, and I do have all of his IEP, y'all. I have each and every one. But IEP in kindergarten, all the way up to him now being a sophomore in high school, every IEP has changed because we have to sit down and we have to see what he's achieving in so we can mark those. We have to see what he's not doing so well in so we can mark those because it's going to determine how he's going to be able to participate in the classroom. Because the thing is, for example, I bring Gabriel in this one because I said he had a struggle in reading. He's not going to be able to participate in everything if some of the stuff involves a lot of reading. He's going to need his accommodations to come in for that. So, that pretty much is a spot in here that talks about their achievements and what they're soaring in and what they're prospering in, but it's also those things that's in here that we still struggling with this. We still got some work to do with this. And that's all a part of the meeting. And sitting down and having meetings. I think I have once a year, sometimes twice a year with Gavin. Annual goals. Measurable goals the child can accomplish in a year. So I wish that I had this enlarged so I can show it, but I don't. So the measurable goals that I can say Gavin had at this point, and this is his IEP from last year. One difficulty he had last year was math. Mind you, never seen Gavin struggle in math at all. But for some reason, walking into algebra blew his mind. And that was a struggle. And so our IEP team immediately, let's call a meeting because why are we're used to seeing him making just about straight A's. Why are we starting to see C's? And that's an issue because there's a struggle there. So I said that to say you basically are sitting down and trying to see like what you can do as far as the goals, meeting the goals, because like I said, when you sit down, you come up with goals. So it's like, what can we do to get his math where it needs to be? And as a team, let's come together and figure out some goals that we can conquer to get him where he needs to be. And let's see at the end of the school year if we conquer those goals. So that's why you have your annual goals. Special education and related services, supplementary aids, and supports the child will receive. So if you have a child in a wheelchair, of course they're going to need someone to assist them with certain things. Could be going to the bathroom and they may need assistance because hey, they have to get out of the chair. It could be if you have a child who, I can't think of a disability off the top of my head, but a child that struggles to eat. They need help with eating because their hands are not, functional enough for them to eat. So those are things that'll be put in an IEP for special education related services because certain services are needed. I can use Gabriel again and say that because he struggled with reading, he's better now. But because he went through a struggle with reading, he had to have his inclusion teacher read certain things to him because he couldn't do it. Now, did they challenge him? Yes, he was challenged. But ultimately, the only way he's going to understand what he's doing is if it's read to him because he can't read it. So that's also something that can be set in place and placed in an IEP. That's a struggle. We need help with that. So that's the service. Um, Participating with non-disabled children. A general description of how much of the school day the child will spend with their peers. So, a lot of accommodations include small group. So I do know that I don't think Gavin has small group as much as he used to, but he had a lot of small group, and that has a lot less to do with autism and more to do with the ADHD, where you can't function because there's so many people around you. So when it comes down to testing and that kind of thing, small group. So that takes him away from the general education with his peers. So it's deciding how much time you need to be taken away from your peers. How much time do you think is necessary? Because hey, you have some kids who need at least an hour of like, I gotta get away from this because it's overwhelming or overstimulating. So putting it also in here, how much time do they need to be away and possibly be in small groups? And some small groups can be tiny, and some small groups can be, maybe 12 kids, but just kind of taking them away. How much time do they need away from general education and more so over by themselves or in a smaller setting? Um, let's see. Assessments, there's that word again. How the child will participate in state and district wide tests along with necessary modifications. Okay, so if it's a state test, Gavin and Gabriel both are pulled because Gabriel needs more time and Gavin needs people away from him so he can focus. So when it comes down to state testing and that kind of thing, if you feel like your child needs to be pulled, that's something that can be placed in here. If you feel like your child needs to be away for a basic test, that's something that can be put in here. But I definitely push with the state test because a lot of those state tests determine a lot of things. For example, are they going to the next grade? So for that reason, pulling them away when you have these assessments and stuff, which is pretty much like the state mandated test, all of that, it's an assessment. It's just seeing where your child is. So if you feel like your child needs to be pulled away, maybe that'll make it easier for them. That is something that you also can place in an IEP. Ask the teachers about it. Because I feel like that's one thing that especially if your child has a disability, I feel like that's one thing that should automatically be put in place. Because for me, I look at it like if their focus is off, or if they trying to kind of cringe when it's time to take tests and they kind of clam up, put them in a smaller environment. So definitely the state test, I feel like, is vital. It's important. That's just my opinion as a parent. It's vital. It's important. Service details. When services begin, how often they will be provided, where they will be provided, and for how long. That's what I was talking about with Gavin with speech. They do have in here when services will begin. So if we set a service in place, they have a date, an exact date. On this date, this service will start. On this date, this service will end. They also have how often it will be provided. Like I said, he went from an hour to 30 minutes. On this date it'll start, on this date it'll end, for this amount of time. All of that is in here. Where it will be provided. Well, it will be provided in such and such classroom, and we will try to do this up until this date. That's a goal. So all of that is in an IEP. We're gonna try to do this. We're gonna try to set this goal starting this date, ending this date, checking in on this date for this amount of time. So that's pretty much how an IEP is set. Now, when you look at it, I can tell you, like I said, I wish I could blow it up. When you look at an IEP, you might be like, what am I looking at? Because it does look complicated. But over the years, I had to realize it's not as complicated as we make it. We just have to ask questions. And that's how I learned. So that's what's in there as well. Now, let's talk about laws as parents. You can request evaluations. If you feel like maybe they haven't been evaluated this entire year and I want to see where they are, you can request evaluations. If you feel like I want to test them for, like I wanted to evaluate Gabriel when we first learned of the reading thing, I wanted an evaluation to see if he was in fact dyslexic. He wasn't, but I requested that evaluation because I wanted to see is that what's getting in the way of his reading. So if you have a thought or a feeling, now if you're talking about autism, ADHD, that kind of thing, they're going to send you to psychologists because, yeah, it's certain testing that they have. I'm not sure if they have certain testing at the schools. I do know that Gavin was tested outside of school, but as far as I know, that will be outside of school. But with something like I said, I wanted to evaluate Gabriel to see if he was dyslexic. That is something that they can do. They have someone set in place to do that. Provide consent. If you don't have my consent, you can't do it. That I don't really have to explain that. That's simple. If you don't have my consent to remove something out of that IEP, it should be removed because you don't have my consent. So that's pretty simple. Be an equal team member. I have talked to a parent before who told me they felt like when they go to IEP meetings, everybody's talking around them as if they're not there. And they felt like they were being treated that way simply because they may not have known as much as they feel like they should have known. And I fussed at her a little bit because in my head I'm thinking that's your child. Nobody can tell you about your child. You make sure in every meeting you are an equal team member. There is no big eyes or no little T's. No, that's not what this is. Everybody is on the same team of providing a service for my child. We're all on the same team. So make sure that you're always an equal team member in that room. Don't allow yourself to feel small in that room. I'm speaking from experience. Starting off with Gavin, I felt tiny. I would not go to a meeting without his dad because I felt like I was so small in the room. And although it's not like his dad was making, I ain't gonna say making a difference, but it's just I didn't want to do it by myself. Now I walk in there, hey, how everybody doing? Because I had to gain that confidence. So I had to learn myself that I'm not a small person in that room. First of all, I gave birth to this little boy. And secondly, I'm not a small person in that room. Yeah, you have your knowledge and you have your book sense, and that's great. But this is my child. So I'm just as equal as you are. Because at the ending of the day, you may have a little more knowledge than me, but I am an equal team member because this is my child. Advocate. I said I was going to say that a lot. Advocate. Request an independent evaluation. You can obtain your own evaluation at your own cost. If you feel like what the school told you didn't like it, go get your own. Like, for example, when I got Gabriel evaluated for dyslexia, if I didn't like the results that I got, I could have simply went out to someone else, paid for it, test him for dyslexia. You can always do that. You don't have to decide, well, because they said it's not there or they said that I'm just going to be good with it. No. If you feel like that's not something, if you're not satisfied, do it on your own. It's okay. It doesn't have to just be the school. Disagree with decisions. I've done a lot of that. I'm not a difficult parent, but I know my children's capabilities. So if I feel like you're not challenging my kids enough, I'm going to push you to challenge them because I know them. Especially that little bitty one. If you're not giving him a challenge, he's not going to make you give him a challenge. He's going to take what you give him because he don't want to be challenged. So ultimately, you know your child. And if they say, well, I feel like, he's kind of more better at this pace than this pace. Nope. He's better at this pace. You just don't know that. But I do. Because I know my child. I disagree with that. We can X that one. We can take that one out. Because I completely disagree with that one. So it has reached the point to where now, because Gabriel is coming behind Gavin, they know me. So they'll ask me, well, Ms. Daniels, how do you feel about this? Because they know I'll disagree. If I don't like it, no, we're not doing that. Again, I'm not difficult, and I'm not. Because for one, Gabriel's kind of following the same teachers that Gavin had. So they know me. So they know how I am, and they know that I trust them. So ultimately, unless it's something that I'm feeling like it's just, oh my God, no, we're not doing that. If y'all say that's what they need, cool. But if it's sounding far-fetched, no, we're not doing that. It's okay to disagree. You don't have to go along with it just because they're a teacher. Receive prior written notice. Meetings, changes in procedures, modifications. 3 big things. I need to know when the meeting is, and I need to know ahead of time. I don't need you to tell me about a meeting on Saturday when tomorrow is Saturday. Because I have a life. I have to work. I have things to get done. I need to know prior. You can speak up and you can say that. You have the right to do that. I need a notice from you guys about this meeting 2 weeks ahead of time so I can prepare. Let's make that happen. Changes in procedures. If they're seeing something in the classroom that they want to change or modify, might as well tie those 2 things together. Let me know. Don't just do it because you want to do it. My right as a parent is to know everything that you're changing for my child. I don't want to hear from my child that they were supposed to have speech for an hour, but they only had it for 30 minutes. I got a problem with that because we agreed that we were doing an hour. Now, if there's an issue and you're not able to do it for an hour anymore, you need to move it to 30 minutes, let me know. But don't just do it without talking to me first. That's my right as a parent. Review IEP documents. You should never receive this document from anyone without first having it explained to you. I'm talking about flipping through every page and explaining everything to me and making sure that I thoroughly understand what's in this paperwork. That should never happen. Don't just give me an IEP. and say, here, this is this and this and this, and we did this and we did that. Thank you. No. That's unacceptable. That should never happen. Again, this is a contract. If a football player gets a contract, they don't just hand him the contract and tell him to sign it. They can, but I can assure you, if there's a lawyer sitting beside him, the lawyer's going to be like, wait a minute, let's go over this contract before you sign that. Same thing for an IEP. Same thing. Same concept. So now I'm going to talk about an IEP setup. So the first thing that happens in part one is just general information, your student information, which is just their name, birth date, the case manager, because they do have case managers, the purpose for the meeting. This one that I'm holding was a reevaluation. The parents who's a part of the meeting, that thing. That's what's in part one. Part two is your case history. So Gavin's case history is basically, is this student age appropriate for grade level? Yes. Gavin is 15. He'll be 16 in March. He's a sophomore. That's where he's supposed to be. So, and just to give another question, is the child's vision within normal limits? Yes, that's what I said earlier about maybe we need to set an accommodation for that child because they wear glasses and they need to see closer to the board. I was going to say chalkboard. Oh my God. Yeah. They don't have chalkboards anymore. But they need to sit closer to the board. So that's accommodation. What's also in here is the fact that he takes Adderall and what he takes Adderall for, which he takes it for ADHD. How often he takes it, what milligrams it is, that's what the case history consists of. Part three is summary of progress monitoring data towards achieving standards. So what this one basically has, and this one was one of those ones that I looked at and I was like, what am I looking at? But it's actually pretty simple. The first one they have, and just to give one, scientific research or evidence-based interventions. Intervention. Gavin has been receiving small group language therapy sessions every other week, targeting problematic language skills. Gavin will answer Gavin will answer pragmatic questions about social situations during structured activities. Beginning date. He started being able to do that on 8/13/2024. Ending date is still in progress. Frequency, one time every other week is when they check that. So that goes back to what I was saying earlier about you have your start date and your end dates on everything. So when did we start trying to test this goal that we were trying to set? And when we checked into it, where was he then? Can we set an ending date or is it still in progress? So that is what you will see in summary of progress monitoring. I think that's kind of, that's basic. The next thing is the part 4 is results of state assessments. This was another thing, and it's, to be honest, it's still a little bit over my head. And I'm sure it's would be over a lot of people's heads unless you're a teacher or you kind of know what you're looking at. But it's kind of telling you where your child is as it relates to state stuff. So the first one they have on here was 2019 math and ELA. So you have 2019, 2021, 2022, 2023, and where was he in 2024? And they have the achievement on here that lets you know where they are. So of course it's scored, and it's scored in numbers. And they have it kind of like basically this is milestone scores, because I'm making it more complicated than what it is. If you live in Georgia, you know what a milestone is. This is milestone scores. So that's what is in part 4. So part 5 is individual student data. So it pretty much gives a written level of where your child is. So just to give an example, this one is math. So his strengths in math calculation skills, Gavin's math calculation skills on WJ, IV, ACH 2024 were in average range. Average range. So this one is basically we put a certain type of test in front of him. I read it like that because, hey, I don't know what test it is, but they put a certain type of test in front of him, just the assessment, just to see where he is. And it's one thing to give numbers, but it's another to basically write out in words where he is. So that's where the individual student data comes in. It's taking the numbers that I just gave you and turning it into words. So it's basically, I guess you could say, simplifying it. Part 6 is decision making for eligibility. So let me get to that. We're still going through the data. Give me just a second. Yeah, still going through the data. So we're finally here. So this one is basically, and I'll just read it because it's short. Have interventions been implemented and monitored as designed for an appropriate time to show effect or lack of effect in the identified areas of concern? Yes. The student may need special education and related services in which the content or delivery of instruction is adapted to address the unique needs of the student. Available progress monitoring and or student data demonstrated the student is not making sufficient rate of progress to meet age or state approved grade level standards within a reasonable time frame. Therefore, there is an adverse effect on educational performance. Yes. So basically, all of the words that I just went through, all of the wording that I just went through, they pretty much decided if he's eligible to not have to go through that assessment again. And he's not. So I want to take a moment to say, I felt like, and a lot of parents may be like, oh my God, she's reading this stuff out loud. For me, I looked at it like I can't give advice or I can't be this person that I'm trying to be if I'm not candid, if I'm not open. There are certain things that I'm not going to say because I mean, yeah, this is my child. So there are certain things that I'm not going to say, but I feel like I can't give advice and not be candid about what my life is. So anybody that knows me, anybody that has ever had a conversation with me as it relates to this topic, I'm open. I'm not a parent that's like, no, my child don't have that issue, knowing good and well my child got that issue. I'm not that parent. I'm going to be honest with you. I have no problem with saying, yes, Gabriel struggled in reading. I have no problem with saying that, yes, Gavin may not be as fully on grade level as he needs to be. I have no problem with saying that because how can I help you if I'm not being open? So as I go through this IEP, I felt the need to say that. I'm not going to read everything. I'm not going to say everything because, again, I'm not that open because this is my child. But there are certain things I will read and certain things that I will say, and it's okay. Part 7 is eligibilities to consider. So, things that they felt like he may need to consider. One of the things was, let's see, one thing that I'll say. Sensory processing is a yes. And I think that's because Gavin does have certain sensory issues. So that was something that they wanted to dive into. Observation. Gavin is an introvert like me. So a lot of times, of course, I'm not sitting in the classroom with him, but me knowing him, I'm sure they feel like they have to observe him a lot because he's not gonna openly express stuff. So observation is probably majorly important. And what they also have in here is the things that the eligibilities that he has and why. So what they have in here is autism, emotional behavioral disorder, other health impairment, specific learning disability, and speech or language disability. So this was before we pulled away the speech. So that's basically what's in the eligibilities to consider. The next one, part 8, is exclusionary factors. So let me go to that. So some examples of that is pretty much, do we need to exclude this? Like, do we need to, get rid of that? So yes means this factor was found to be a determinate factor creating the characteristics of this disability. No means this factor was not found to be a determined factor creating the characteristics of this disability. Before determining whether autism is an appropriate eligibility category, the following exclusionary factors were considered. Lack of instruction in reading. Is this factor exclusionary? No. Emotional disturbance. Is this factor exclusionary? No. I'm trying to find him a yes. So if I seem like I'm trying to find him a yes on here. Okay, here's one. Behavioral or social deficits are not clearly linked to emotionally impaired functioning. Is this factor exclusionary? Yes. Comment. Gavin does not demonstrate significant concerns with overall social, emotional, behavioral functioning. So basically, if you know Gavin, you know what that means. Basically. But for those of you that don't, he's not very sociable. He talks to who he talks to. That's it. If you don't make him comfortable, he's not gonna give you eye contact. He's not gonna like, and that's just him. That's autism. That was honestly the only yes that I found in here. He has a lot of no's. Yeah, he has a lot of no's. So yeah, that was the only yes that I found. So part 9, summary of considerations and determinations. So it's on the next page. So eligibility is being considered in the following areas: autism, other health impairment, specific learning disability, speech or language impairment. Final decision. Student is eligible for category of autism. The eligibility community agreed that Gavin continues to be eligible under the category of autism. At approximately 3 years old, Gavin was clinically diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. That's wrong, he was 2. A private education conducted following a private evaluation conducted by Dr. Graves with Psychological Care Center for Growth and Development. So basically, it's basically saying, I don't have to read the whole paragraph. What that's basically saying is he was diagnosed actually at 2. And we're just seeing if he's still eligible because this is years later. So we're still seeing that if he's eligible for these accommodations, and in fact he is. And it falls under autism. Now, depending on your child, Gavin has autism and ADHD. The only thing that falls under ADHD for him is when his medication is included. But other than that, of course, we see ADHD show up when he doesn't focus well at all. So that's when we see ADHD show up. But other than that, like certain behavior, he doesn't have that issue. So everything for him falls under autism. Part 9 is a summary of considerations and I think I just did that, didn't I? I did. Get yourself together, Brittany. I'm being real today, y'all. I'm not even gonna edit that. Part 10 is team information. So that's a list of everybody that's sitting in the meeting and what their role is in Gavin's life. So this meeting he had Miss Strickland, Miss Theobald, which is his speech teacher, Mr. Harrell, that was his math teacher. Just a basis of who all was in the meeting. It's just a list of everyone that was involved in the meeting, including me and including Gavin. This pretty much breaks down when what did you conclude in the meeting? Will there be any changes in anything? Have parents' rights been provided because you have to sign the paperwork for parents' rights? Has that been provided? What everyone feels as far as where Gavin is and what are we putting in the IEP is basically just giving everyone's thoughts on the meeting and what we're feeling with Gavin. They also have in here what documents are provided for the parents and the parental rights. I just talked about that. The eligibility reports and evaluation reports. It also has the dates and how did I receive it and all of that. So they even have on here, that it was given to Gavin to give to me. I was going to touch on that. I'm big on making sure you get a copy of your child's IEP. I'm big on that because I feel like I need to have it for my records too. I need to know what we need to work on when I'm at home, not just when I'm sitting in the school. So always make sure you get a copy of the IEP. Now, it takes them, they're not going to give you one immediately as you're walking out the door after a meeting because they have to draw it up. So it may take a couple of weeks for you to get it, but make sure you get it. Not just evaluations, but when you're sitting down for revals. Like I said, this is a reval. So when you're sitting down for revals, I want copies of that too. I need to have all of that for my records for my child. Because if there are certain things that you need, like for example, and I was going to talk about this later too, if your child receives disability benefits, you need this stuff. When they ask for it and you can't present it, that poses as a problem. So you need to be able to present that stuff. So always make sure that you get copies of the stuff. Don't just let them keep it, but you need copies as well. Never. Always remind, hey, if you haven't gotten it in 2 weeks, okay, what's up with the IEP? I need a copy of it. When is it coming home? That kind of thing. So Gavin and Gabriel teachers have been good about making sure that I receive them. And most of the time, they kind of let them know, hey, make sure your mom, because they know me. So make sure your mom receives this. So always make sure you get a copy. Now, I'm going to take this moment to give my personal thoughts about IEPs. I have heard a lot of parents talk against them because they always feel like An IEP is saying that something is wrong with my child. If your child needs an IEP, something is wrong. And guess what? That's okay. Because we're helping the child, not hindering the child. When you become that parent that's saying, I don't want my child to have that. My child fine. Yeah, your child is absolutely fine. But they need this in place. Help your child. Because when you decide to, I'm going to be candid and be honest, that's ignorant. Because when you decide to say, I'm not doing that because my child fine. If an IEP is being presented to you, at least listen. At least hear them out and see. You may not agree with it, and that's cool. That's your prerogative. That's your child. But ultimately, at least hear them out because there's nothing wrong with the child being on an IEP. Again, I said at the beginning of this video, Gavin would not be as far as he has been without an IEP in place. If I didn't have this set in place, he would not be where he is, and he's very far. All the odds were against my baby. He wasn't like we. A doctor told me Gavin would not read or write, literally. Well, he probably can outread that doctor and his writing. Yeah. But he can write. But I mean, just don't be that parent. That's all I'm saying. Don't be that parent. I'm a parent that's I don't like to hear that kind of thing because I may hurt your feelings. Because I may be just straight up blunt with you because at the end of the day, it's about your child. It's not about you or your feelings or what you think or how you feel or how it's about your child and what your child needs. It's not about you in this moment. An IEP does not make your child retarded. Yes, I've heard that. It does not. It's giving your child what they need to succeed, a tool to succeed. This paper sitting on this table right now is Gavin's tool to succeed in life, to become what he wants to become. Speaking of what Gavin wants to become, y'all, he told me. I'm finna be myself for a minute. Y'all, he told me that he wants to, if you know Gavin, this is not going to be surprising. He wants to be a part of NASCAR, but he wants to do engineering on the side. It's kind of like a part-time job. Y'all pray for me. Gavin's in the 10th grade. It's time to figure it out. Y'all keep me in your prayers. I just want to put that little small bit in here. But that's my thoughts on IEPs. If you have any questions or want more information about IEPs, I always put my information at the end of the videos. I have people that reach out to me. I do reach back. Now, I might not get to you immediately, but I get to you as fast as I can. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you want me to research something, if it's something that I already know, it can immediately answer. Please don't hesitate. Reach out to me. Let me know what I can help you with. If you have my personal phone number, hit me up. Text me. Don't call me. Please don't call me. Text me. I'll get you what you need. My email is on there. My TikTok is on there. If you want to hit me up on TikTok, whatever. Reach out to me. If you have a question or concern, or you need some more information, or you just need, hey, everybody don't have time to do the research that I sit down and try to do. Everybody don't have the time. Call me. I'll do it. My downtime at work, I don't have a lot of it. But my downtime at work, I'll research it for you. Just hit me up and let me know. I want to thank my supporters, as I always do. I thank you guys so much. I don't want to start naming names because when I start naming names, I forget people. But I have a good support team. And I'm so thankful. I have people that push me. I had an auntie that inboxed me today and was like, you keep going and don't you stop. I'm thankful for that. I need that because there are days that I want to quit. There are days that I don't want to do it. There are days that I don't want to do the research. There are days that I don't even want to hear the word autism. There are those days, and I'm just being honest. There are those days that I want to give up, but I'm not. And I'm thankful for my supporters and my support team and the people that look out for me and make sure that I'm good. Next episode, I'll go ahead and tackle this and then I'll talk about the next episode. I will not be on next week. Me and my husband's anniversary is coming up. We are taking a trip. It's well needed, much needed. I'm so excited. So I'm not going to be on next week. But next episode, is going to be titled Gabriel, Growing Up with an Autistic Big Brother. That's going to be my next episode. Listen, if you're not my kids and you know Gabriel, tune in. Because if you're trying to get to know Gabriel or you're interested in who Gabriel really is, tune in. Gabriel is different. I'm trying to tell you. Gabriel is my child that's like 2 steps from sending me into a nervous breakdown because he is a lot. But that he's been begging me and begging me and begging me. Well, Mama, I got something to say too. Well, so I finally said, okay, next episode, we're gonna hear from you and how you feel about having an autistic big brother. Gabriel's 13, Gavin's 15. So that's his big brother. So that's gonna be the next episode. If you have missed any of my episodes, you do not want to miss this one. Again, Gabriel is interesting. He is interesting. I realized when I named him Gabriel Jeremiah. Yeah. he's an interesting guy. So again, you do not want to miss that episode. That will be the next episode. I'm gonna wrap this up. I told you guys IEP would be long, a bit lengthy, and it was, but I tried to squeeze as much information as I could into it to just make it one episode rather than making it more than one. But I feel like at some point I may dive back into it and dig deeper. So just stay tuned. I'm sure it's coming. But again, thank you guys for supporting me. Thank you guys for having my back. Thank you guys for viewing. Thank you guys for sharing. Thank you guys for liking. Thank you guys for commenting. Thank you. Even when you don't do any of that, but you reach out to me privately just to let me know I see you. Thank you. I can never thank you enough. That's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.